I will advance in the line. At the right, 2. Wait, stand at peace.
Kia ora koutou. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this ANZAC Dawn Service for 2024. I'm Lieutenant William Atkinson, 2nd 4th Battalion, Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment, and I have the privilege of being your Director of Ceremonies this morning. Shortly, the mounting of the guard on the cenotaph will take place. The guard is to provide protection for the cenotaph throughout the commemorations. This year we have 1 sailor from HM NZS Toroa and 3 soldiers from 2nd 4th Battalion RNZIR. They are commanded by Corporal Downey Melrose, 2nd 4th Battalion RNZIR. The service will officially begin at 6:30 with the firing of a 25-pound gun, symbolising the time when ANZAC forces landed at Gallipoli over a century ago. Live streaming and radio broadcasting will commence at 6:30 and will be available on demand after the service. In a few minutes, the New Zealand, Australian and United Kingdom national flags will be broken. Please note there will be a 2-round gun salute at 6:30. The rounds will be quite loud, so those in the vicinity of the gun are advised to cover their ears. I will provide a warning shortly before the salute is fired. Also, later in the ceremony, the official parties will lay wreaths on the cenotaph. A wreath marshal will act as guide. Members of the public will be asked to wait until the end of the service to pay their respects and lay wreaths. Although not mandatory, the wearing of face masks is encouraged to protect our nation's vulnerable. If you are feeling anxious or uneasy while in large crowds, please contact St John for assistance. Also, if you are unwell, have cold or flu symptoms, please go home and contact your doctor for advice. Hand sanitizer, if required, is located at the Red Cross tent, and please contain any sneezing or coughing with your elbow. In the unlikely case of an emergency, please follow my instructions and directions from officials. While we wait for the flags to be broken, Murray Tannock, Pipe Major of the City of Dunedin Pipe Band, will play a lament. There will now be a drum roll signifying the rallying of the spirits. This will be followed by the gun salute, 2 shots, 1 minute apart. Stand by for the gun salute. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this ANZAC Day Dawn Service, the 109th anniversary of the ANZAC Forces landing at Gallipoli in 1915. I would like to formally welcome members of the official party, our guest speaker, Brigadier Matthew Weston, Land Component Commander, Headquarters, Joint Forces New Zealand, the New Zealand Government Representative, the Honourable Mark Patterson, the United Kingdom Representative, Captain Henry Lodge, 1st Royal Yorkshire Regiment, the Australian Representative, Labour MP, the Honourable Rachel Brooking, the Chairman for the Otago Regional Council, Gretchen Robertson, and the Mayor of Dunedin, His Worship, Jules Radich. I would now like to introduce today's officiating chaplain, Chaplain Leah Graff.
Kia ora, good morning and welcome. As we assemble together this ANZAC morning with united purpose and spirit, I invite you to take a moment to focus your hearts and minds on remembering, reflecting, and renewing. In remembering, we look back and consider the sacrifices of thousands upon thousands of New Zealanders in times of both war and peace. Through Gallipoli and subsequent conflicts, our people have known the horrors of war and the trauma of its aftermath. And yet, in looking back, we also find guidance and hope for our future, knowing that while there is a time to kill, there is also a time to heal. In reflecting, we consider where we stand at this current moment in history. Our hearts feel the weight of loss and suffering experienced by those in the Ukraine and the Gaza Strip and the many conflicts throughout the world. In light of our current situation, we must ask and consider, what is the meaning of a life of service and sacrifice? We consider the many New Zealanders who have served and continue to serve with the ANZAC spirit. We may never fully grasp the extent of their commitment, but while there is a time for mourning, there is also a time for dancing, and thus we celebrate our people with boldness and gratitude. As we've remembered and reflected, we also now renew our hearts and minds with hope for the future. As we've been blessed with the foundation of sacrifice and service rich in the ANZAC spirit, we also nurture these in our lives, families, and communities, not merely considering the gravity of sacrifice, but renewing a spirit of unity in the bond of peace with courage, knowing there is a season for every purpose under the sun. As we say the ode together and fall silent for the last post and Reveille, let us remember those who made the supreme sacrifice, those from our own families, those with no one to remember them. Let us reflect on the present, and in so doing, renew our commitment to the causes of peace and justice throughout the world. We will now join in singing God Save the King.
This morning's readings are by Benjamin Pickering and Louisa Campbell-Lowe, prefects from Bayfield High School.
Good morning, everybody. Joseph Crockett immigrated to New Zealand in 1855 from Ireland. He married Christina Campbell, also an immigrant from Butte, Scotland, in Dunedin. They had a family of 4 girls and 4 boys. The boys were educated at Kaikarai School. At the outbreak of World War I, Charles was the first of the 4 boys to enlist in August 1914 as a member of the 8th Southland Regiment. He embarked to Suez with the main body in December 1914, where he took part in the Gallipoli landings. He was declared missing on the 30th of May 1915 during the battle for the No. 3 post, but managed to make his way back after the engagement ended. He was invalided out with gastroenteritis in August and did not return to Gallipoli. After recuperating, he was redeployed to Armentières, France in April 1916, with the Otago Infantry Brigade. He was killed on the 29th of June, 1916. He was 23 years old and is buried in a military cemetery in Armentières, France. Joseph Crockett enlisted 2 weeks later, in August 1914, and embarked with Charles with the Otago Infantry Brigade. He deployed to Gallipoli on the 12th of April and also took part in the Anzac landings. He was shot in the abdomen during the Surrey Bay offensive on the 12th of August and died of his wounds on the hospital ship Valdivia the same day. He was buried at sea but is remembered on the Lone Pine Memorial. John Crockett enlisted in August 1915 and went with the 8th Reinforcements of the Otago Infantry Brigade to Suez, then to France in April 1916. He was wounded on the 9th and 19th of June. He was evacuated to England for treatment and returned to France in November. He was wounded again in June 1917, but remained in France, returning to his unit in August. During the Battle of Polderhoek Spur, he was killed in action on the 3rd of December 1917, aged 32 years. He is buried in Hoog Crater Cemetery, IEPER. William, the youngest, tried to enlist, but was caught by one of his former teachers who sent him home. He tried to enlist when of age, but a workplace injury prevented him from joining. 2 nephews of the brothers served in World War II. Both were captured in Crete, but survived the war.
Tēnā koutou. John and Agnes Paisley married in April 1883 and settled on a farm in Upper Junction, where they had 11 children. 4 brothers enlisted for service in World War I, with only one surviving the war. Andrew enlisted in August 1914 from Wellington. He was territorial with the 5th Wellington Regiment. He was a member of the Samoan Expeditionary Force, the first New Zealand unit to engage in the war. He was discharged in December the same year. He re-enlisted in December 1916 and embarked as a 2nd Lieutenant with 1st Battalion, Otago Infantry Regiment. He was appointed adjutant in August 1917. He was awarded the Military Cross for gallantry during the New Zealand Division attack at Passchendaele. He remained as the battalion adjutant and returned to New Zealand and discharged in March 1919. Alexander, a territorial, enlisted in August 1914 and left Port Chalmers with the main body in October that year as a sergeant with the Otago Infantry Battalion. As a member of 4 Company, he took part in the Gallipoli landings. He was killed in the Second Battle of Krithia in May 1915. He was 23 years old and is remembered on the 12 Tree Copse NZ Memorial, Halle, Turkey. Andrew enlisted in April 1915 and embarked with the Otago Infantry Battalion and deployed to Gallipoli from Madras. He was redeployed to France in April 1916. He was shot in the face and evacuated to England and rejoined his unit in March 1917. He was killed in action on the 12th of October 1917. He was 31 years old and is buried in the Powell Capel British Cemetery. Harold enlisted in May 1917 and left New Zealand on the Ruahine and deployed to France in October with the Otago Infantry Regiment. He then joined the 2nd Entrenching Battalion. He was shot in the leg in the Second Battle of Cambrai in October 1918 and evacuated to England. He was discharged on the 7th of January 1919. He was discharged but was a victim of the influenza pandemic, readmitted twice and died of disease on the 22nd of February 1919. He was 21 years old and is buried in Glasgow. The Crockett and Paisleys were 2 of Dunedin's families to lose 3 sons in World War I. The Brennan and Paisley families of Upper Junction lost a total of 7 sons.
We will now join in a moment of prayer. To the words, "Lord, in your mercy," I invite you to respond, "Hear our prayer." Let us pray. For the peace of the world, for all who work to improve international relationships, that they may find the true way to reconcile people of different race, color, and creed, and for men and women the world over, that they may have justice and freedom and live in security and peace. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For all who suffer as a result of war, for the injured and the disabled, for the mentally distressed, and for those whose faith in God and humankind has been weakened or destroyed, for the homeless and refugees, for those who are hungry, and for all who have lost their livelihood and security, for those who mourn their dead, those who have lost husband or wife, children or parents, and especially for those who feel they have no hope to sustain them in their grief. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Amen.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Brigadier Matthew Weston, Land Component Commander, Headquarters, Joint Force New Zealand. Brigadier Matthew Weston enlisted into the New Zealand Army in January 1993, graduated into the Royal New Zealand Artillery. Brigadier Weston fulfilled a range of regimental and command positions in 16th Field Regiment, culminating as Commanding Officer in 2012 to 2013. He then went on to command 1 NZ Brigade in 2018 to 2020, and Brigadier Weston has held training appointments within the Officer Cadet School of New Zealand, Tactical School, and as Commandant of the Land Operations Training Centre. He has held staff roles in Headquarters, Joint Force New Zealand, Defence Human Resources, and the 2015 Defence White Paper Team. Brigadier Weston has deployed with the 6th New Zealand Battalion Group East Timor from May to November 2002 as the S3 and later as J5, Headquarters ISAF and Senior National Officer, Operation Kia, Afghanistan. Brigadier Weston was promoted to his current rank and posted into the role of Deputy Chief of Army in June 2020 before posting as Chief People Officer in December 2021. In January 2023, Brigadier Weston became the Land Component Commander. Brigadier Weston has completed a Bachelor of Science and a Master's in Public Management, and he is a graduate of the Australian Command and Staff College and the United Kingdom's High Command and Staff course. Sir, it is an honour to have you here this morning.
Mo tātou a mo kauri a muri ake nei. Tēnā koutou katoa. A good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honour to address you on this very special day, a day we have commemorated for the last 108 years. On the 25th of April 1915, brave New Zealanders and Australians of the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps landed on the beaches of Gallipoli. Many did not return home. These soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice. Over the course of the First and Second World War, over 30,000 New Zealanders lost their lives defending freedom and our way of life. One of those New Zealanders was Sergeant Donald Brown, a young farmer who was born and raised in Otago. He attended Oamaru South School before studying at Waitaki Boys High. Upon heeding the call to serve, Donald sold his farm and joined the 2nd Battalion, North Otago Regiment, and then conducted training in Trentham before deploying to Egypt. In 1916, he then deployed to France to take part in the Somme offensive. During this operation, he and Sergeant Jesse Rogers, another man from Oamaru, rushed forward and destroyed a machine gun position and its crew, allowing the New Zealand assault to continue and saving the lives of other men within the company. These men were heroes. Sergeant Brown conducted a similar action by himself 2 months later, where he was mortally wounded and subsequently awarded the Victoria Cross. This small story of courage and heroism and sacrifice is one of so many who have lost their lives in war. Such loss filled our nation with grief. The pain experienced over the course of World War I and II was shared by both those deployed and those who remained at home. It can be hard to fathom that after the experience of both world wars, there remain those who have continued to use the most extreme form of violence to achieve their goals, which are underpinned by beliefs that differ greatly from our own. New Zealanders have continued to see conflict in Korea, Southeast Asia, and more recently Afghanistan and the Middle East. Today we are reminded that to some, conflict and violence is a means to an end. The world is continuing to see significant regional conflict in places like the Ukraine and the Middle East. There are many populations around this world still suffering tragic loss and the accompanying grief. Each ANZAC Day, we honour our commitment to our fallen by remembering those who served in our armed forces, what they served for and what they fought for, all in the pursuit of peace and the protection of our freedom and of our way of life. As we commemorate those who have served, may we also think of those who can continue to do so. Ka mau mahara, tono tātou, kia rātou, we will remember them. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
The Ode for the Fallen in Te Reo by Emeritus Professor John Broughton, University of Otago, and then in English by Squadron Leader Kevin Weir, President, RSA Dunedin.
E kore rātou, e kaumātutia, pēnei ia tātou, kua mahu nei. E kore hoki rātou, e ngoi kore. Aha ko pia i ngā āhotanga o te wā, i te hekinga atu o te rā. Tai noa ki te aranga mai i te ata. Ka mau mahara tonu tātou ki a rātou. Ka mau mahara tonu tātou ki a rātou.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
It is now my pleasure to reintroduce the officiating chaplain, Chaplain Leah Graff.
When you go back home, say, for your tomorrows, we gave our today.
Ladies and gentlemen, wreaths will now be laid on the cenotaph to remember those who have died in the service of their country. Members of the public are invited to lay wreaths at the conclusion of the service. The first wreaths will be laid representing the New Zealand Government, Gallipoli descendants, the New Zealand Defence Force, the Australian Government Representative, the United Kingdom Government Representative, and the City of Dunedin. Otago Regional Council, the Honourable Rachel Brooking, Dunedin RSA, New Zealand Navy, New Zealand Army, New Zealand Air Force, and the Highlanders. New Zealand Police, New Zealand Fire Service, St. John, Red Cross, New Zealand Customs, and New Zealand Corrections. Dunedin RSA Women's Association, RSA Choir, J-Force, Merchant Navy, ex-Navalmen's, and K-Force. The RSA Choir will now sing the hymn In Flanders Fields. This is an arrangement by Stephen Chapman of a poem written by Lieutenant Colonel John McRae in May 1915. Lieutenant Colonel McRae was a doctor in the Canadian Corps and later died in France in 1918.
Fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by for the last post, where the national flags of New Zealand, Australia and the United Kingdom will be lowered. A 30-second silent tribute will then take place, followed by a reveille. Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Leah Graff will now give the benediction.
God, we ask that you grant to the living grace, to the departed rest, to the Church, the King, the Commonwealth, and all humankind, peace and concord. And to all your servants, life everlasting. May the Lord bless and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join in singing the national anthems of New Zealand and Australia.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that almost completes the service, but before the parade is dismissed, on behalf of the Dunedin RSA, I would like to thank Brigadier Matthew Weston for being our guest speaker today, Benjamin Pickering and Louisa Campbell-Lowe for their readings, Emeritus Professor John Broughton and Squadron Leader Kevin Weir for reading the Ode to the Fallen, Murray Tannock for a lament, the Dunedin RSA Choir, the Kaikorai Metropolitan Brass Band, the City of Dunedin Pipe Band, Gravity Events for sound and lighting, Bridie Strang, sign language interpreter, and the bugler Ralph Miller. Thanks also go to the Otago Gunners Association who conducted the gun salute, and the Otago Officers Club and RSA Trust for funding assistance at this event. The RSA would like to acknowledge the significant behind-the-scenes contribution made by the Dunedin City Council and staff. And now a reminder of other local ANZAC Day services taking place today. A commemorative service at Andersons Bay Cemetery commencing at 9:30 a.m. A parade at the Mosgiel RSA commencing at 9:40 a.m, followed by a service at the Cenotaph Memorial Gardens at 10 a.m. A service at Monticello Veterans Home commencing at 11 a.m. The Otago University and the Otago University Students Association ANZAC service will be held at the Memorial Walk beside the University Clock Tower commencing at 1 p.m, with their alternative being Union Hall. And the RSA Choir will perform their ANZAC Review at Knox Church commencing at 7 p.m. And a reminder, there will be hot drinks and ANZAC biscuits available for members of the public at Toitu, Otago Settlers Museum, following the completion of this dawn service. Shortly, the Cenotaph Guard will dismount. On the completion of this, the parade will be dismissed. That concludes this ANZAC Day Dawn Service for 2024. I would like to finish by thanking you for your attendance this morning, and we look forward to seeing you here again next year.